Pareto Principle, the idea of vital few and trivial many. In this session, our objective is to understand the concept of Pareto analysis and its importance, to learn the associated history and its evolution in brief, and to appreciate the Pareto thinking and its implications in Six Sigma methodology. Vilfredo Pareto was a late 19th century civil engineer, sociologist, economist, political scientist, and philosopher who first noted and reported his observation in his first work, Cours d'économie politique, that approximately 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population. This is the basis for what we now call the Pareto Principle. He also observed that 80% of income in Italy went to 20% of the population. Pareto later carried out surveys in some other countries and found to his surprise that a similar 80-20 distribution applied. In the late 1940s, Romanian-born American engineer and management consultant, Joseph M. Juran suggested that the principle of 80-20 can well be applied to the process improvement and quality improvement, and named this simple 80-20 ratio as Pareto Principle, after Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. So in general, the Pareto Principle states that for many outcomes, roughly 80% of consequences come from 20% of the causes. These causes are called vital few. The rest of the causes, the other 80%, have less impact. These are called trivial many. There are many popular names for this principle. These are the 80-20 rule, the law of the vital few, or the principle of factor sparsity. In statistics, Pareto analysis is a statistical technique in decision-making used for the selection of a limited number of tasks that produce significant overall effect. The Pareto principle has many applications in quality control. It is the basis for the Pareto diagram, one of the key tools used in total quality control and Six Sigma methodology. Pareto ordering is a tool for prioritization. It is used to guide corrective action and to help the Six Sigma problem-solving team take steps to fix the problems that are causing the greatest number of defects on priority. In reality, we can apply the 80-20 rule to almost anything. Let us take a few more examples. Many researchers have done observations that this simple concept can be seen true in many aspects of life. A few examples for better understanding are like these. 80% of delays in the schedule result from 20% of the possible causes of the delays. It means that, if you take a survey among 100 people and ask them to list the reasons why they become normally late in a meeting, you will find that approximately 20% of the total possibilities will figure in 80% of the cases. Similarly, 80% of customer complaints arise from 20% of your products and services. Or so to say, 20% of a system's defects cause 80% of its problems, and even 20% of your products and services account for 80% of your profit. In the United States, in the year 2000, 2006, and again in 2018, the top 20% of earners paid roughly 80 to 90% of federal income taxes. Other than these aspects, Pareto rule is also applicable to other facets of life. For example, in computing, it was noted that by fixing the top 20% of the most reported bugs, 80% of the related errors and crashes in each system would be eliminated. It is also observed that 20% of the code has 80% of the errors. WordPerfect and other software developers identified that customers use 20% of a program's functions 80% of the time. Pareto principle applies to sports as well. Pareto principle holds up pretty soundly when it is applied to baseball. For example, 15% of all the players last year produced 85% of the total wins, with the other 85% of the players creating 15% of the wins. Occupational health and safety professionals use the Pareto principle to underline the importance of hazard prioritization. Assuming 20% of the hazards account for 80% of the injuries, and by categorizing hazards, safety professionals can target those 20% of the hazards that cause 80% of the injuries or accidents. The Pareto principle also ensures hazards are addressed in an economical order. In engineering and procurement control, it applies too. The Pareto Principle serves as a baseline for ABC analysis and XYZ analysis, widely used in logistics and procurement, for the purpose of optimizing stock of goods, as well as costs of keeping and replenishing that stock. In engineering control theory, such as for electromechanical energy converters, the 80-20 principle applies to optimization efforts. Let us now see how Pareto Principle is employed in Six Sigma journey. In a continuous process, a small number of processes are responsible for vast majority of the organization's performance. In the next stage, a small number of process metrics will provide the vast majority of the required processes' outputs. Even further, a small number of the process steps are responsible for vast majority of the results, for example, customer satisfaction. About 20% of the improvement projects will generate about 80% of the savings. About 80% of the participation on improvement will be due to 20% of the employees. There is a rule of thumb in problem solving. Identify all the potential causes, and focus on 20% of the causes. This shall improve 80% of the problems. These are to be in first category. After results for improving the first category is achieved, move on to the next category. And so on. So we have learned that the 80-20 rule maintains that 80% of outcomes, that is the outputs, come from 20% of causes, these are inputs. In the 80-20 rule, you prioritize the 20% of factors that will produce the best results. The real power of this Pareto principle is that it is an abstract principle, widely applicable, approximately true to a wide variety of contexts. The Pareto principle demands that we focus on vital few. We differentiates vital few from trivial many. This also brings forth a tremendous simplification, and finally, clarity, which leads to better way forward. This rule is a precept, not a hard and fast mathematical law.
End of the session. To make the learning even more engaging, our research team has prepared a short quiz for you to test your understanding. You can find the link to the quiz in the description below. Take a few minutes to complete it and feel free to share it with your colleagues, friends and online mates. Before you go, don't forget to hit the bell icon. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time, don't miss out on the latest insights. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.